I remember the road like it was breathing beneath my tires, empty, stretching into the fog, so thick it swallowed the trees whole. The highway lights flickered overhead, pale and hesitant, as though unsure they belonged there. I kept my hands on the wheel, heart steady, yet a quiet hum in the distance made me glance at the rearview mirror again and again. Somewhere beyond the fog, shapes seemed to shift, shadows too deliberate, too aware. The night was calm, almost intimate, like the forest itself was listening. Leaves rustled in the wind, but there was no wind. A soft static hummed across the radio, though I hadn't touched the dial. Every now and then a faint, pale glow would flash on the horizon, an unidentifiable rhythm, like eyes watching, calculating. I slowed, telling myself it was imagination, the loneliness of miles and miles of isolation. But the further I drove, the heavier the silence became, pressing against my ears, filling my chest. Something was moving with me, just beyond the reach of my headlights. Something patient. I kept telling myself it was a trick of the fog, a deer perhaps, or a wandering reflection. Then, just as the moon disappeared behind a cloud, I saw it, a figure, impossibly tall, standing at the edge of the forest, its eyes reflecting a light that had no source. And in that moment, I knew the road was no longer mine. That's when I saw it. The fog pressed close to the asphalt, heavy and damp. I drove alone. My headlights cut thin swaths through the gray. Everything else was swallowed. A light flickered far ahead, soft, irregular, like a pulse in the mist. I slowed. The light blinked again. And with every blink, the road behind me seemed to shrink. Mile markers disappeared. The familiar shapes of trees and signs folded into shadow. It was impossible, and yet I could not look away. I tried to shake it off. A trick of the fog, maybe, but when I eased the wheel, the light moved with me, mirrored me, a faint echo of my own path, hovering, deliberate. The tires hummed against the asphalt. It was a quiet hum, steady and almost soothing, and beneath it, my breath came shallow, fast. The hum pressed closer with every mile, as if the road itself had learned my rhythm. The highway felt alive, not in a way of birdsong or wind, but a slow, patient awareness. Every line of paint, every curve of asphalt, like it had bent itself to my presence. I glanced at the rear view. Nothing moved there, and yet I felt watched. Something patient, just beyond vision, keeping pace without footsteps. The fog shifted. Thicker now, curling around the tires, licking the metal of the car. The trees leaned inward, their branches whispering against each other. I couldn't hear words, but there was intention in the rustle, a waiting. The flickering light ahead became a beacon, soft, insistent, almost breathing. It tugged at something deep inside me. Curiosity, dread, and a hunger I didn't understand. I slowed again. The light pulsed. Faster, closer. Every instinct told me to stop. But the road, this living, bending road, kept pulling me forward. I tried to shake my mind clear. A foggy highway, my imagination, nothing more. But the hum followed. It grew, layered with something more, a vibration under the wheel, a low, steady thrum that filled the cabin. I pressed the brakes gently. The light blinked in tandem. It was no trick. It waited, and I realized the world around me had stopped moving. Only the tires, only the hum, only the slow inhale of my own chest. The trees disappeared into mist. The roadside folded inward. I couldn't see the edge of the highway anymore. I was on a narrow strip of asphalt, suspended in gray. I wanted to stop the car completely, but something in me couldn't. Curiosity tangled with fear. The road had a rhythm, a heartbeat I was learning to follow. And then in the corner of my eye, I noticed it. The fog seemed thinner there, almost like a veil, revealing the light hovering over the asphalt. Closer now, patient, alive. I exhaled, and the breath stayed. Hung in the air, pale and still, condensing into the faintest shimmer, a mirror of the light above the road. I drove forward, slowly, the world behind me shrinking, fading, the fog, the hum, the light, all waiting, and I could not look away. A quiet dread settled in my chest, heavy, silent, And I kept moving toward the light, toward the unknown, alone on the silent road. I stepped off a highway. The tires still hummed faintly behind me. But here, among the trees, the sound vanished. Mist curled around my ankles, soft and cold. Each step left no mark. The earth drank my footprints like they were never made. The forest was still, not quiet, different. A tension hummed beneath the branches, like the air itself was holding its breath. Pale lights moved between the trunks, slow, deliberate, almost floating. I blinked, and they shifted, too tall to be human, too precise to be wind. I tried to tell myself it was imagination. Shadows, moonlight, fog, but my skin crawled with awareness. I was being observed. Each step I took made the forest lean closer. Branches arched over me, rustling names I could not recognize. Every movement of my body seemed echoed, mirrored by something just beyond perception. I stopped. The lights paused. The mist thickened, curling higher, and I felt them shift around me, circling, patient, silent. A branch cracked somewhere to my left. I flinched, heart rising, but there was no shape, only the mist and those impossible silhouettes, bending just out of focus. The forest seemed to stretch. Paths that were there vanished when I turned my head. The space around me breathed. Waiting, I walked carefully. The air smelled faintly of damp earth and something metallic. Leaves whispered with each step, soft footsteps following mine, too quiet to trace. The pale lights flickered closer. No sound, only a sensation crawling across my skin, like invisible fingers brushing my shoulders. I froze again. The trees were still, but I could feel eyes, many eyes, glimmering faintly, invisible yet present. The mist swirled. Every blink changed what I thought I saw. Sometimes it was shapes, tall, narrow, stretching beyond reason. Sometimes it was nothing at all, but the feeling of being watched never left. I whispered to myself, words barely audible. No answer came. Only the forest held its breath. I took one step forward, then another, and I realized I had wandered deeper than I intended, past the edge of familiarity, into a place that existed only in the fog. Something shifted just behind a tree. I turned slowly. Nothing. The pale lights pulsed, moving as if alive, but careful to avoid my gaze. I wanted to flee, but my feet stayed rooted, drawn by curiosity, by the pull of shapes that made no sense. The air grew heavier. Each inhale was thick with moisture and tension. My heartbeat sounded loud, and yet was swallowed by the forest. I whispered my own name. The fog swallowed it immediately. Not a reflection, not an echo, just absence, and the sense that the forest had noticed. The pale lights danced again. One lingered just beyond a moss-covered trunk, then vanished as I blinked. I realized I would never see them clearly, never fully, and yet I could feel them everywhere. Watching, waiting, patient. I stepped back toward the highway. The mist followed. Every rustle of leaves carried intent, and I could not shake the feeling that leaving might be impossible. The forest exhaled behind me, a quiet, deliberate sigh, and I walked on alone, with eyes between trees that had never truly let me go. The fog clung to the edges of the highway, thicker now, almost liquid. I kept moving. The tires hummed softly, each rotation echoing in the mist. A strange glow appeared along the shoulder, pale, humming, almost breathing. It didn't belong, and yet I felt drawn. I slowed, then stopped. The glow pulsed with a rhythm I couldn't name. It seemed to reach for me, soft and insistent, like a hand brushing the fog itself. Shadows twisted along the trees. They warped unnaturally, stretching and bending with each glance. When I looked behind, they shifted again, as if the forest had no fixed shape, only intention. The glow pulsed faster. I realized I couldn't tell which of us moved, me toward it, or it toward me. The air hummed, carrying a vibration through my chest. My breath formed pale clouds. Each exhale lingered, thick with moisture, and for a moment, the fog around me formed shapes, faces, figures. I couldn't tell. They dissolved as quickly as they appeared. I stepped closer. The glow retreated slightly, hovering just out of reach. It was patient, teasing, but I could feel it aware of me. The ground beneath the tires seemed softer. Every inch forward made the hum resonate louder. Leaves quivered on the trees, and a faint rustling followed me through the mist. I wanted to look away. My body wanted to run. But the light pulled softly at something inside me, an unnameable curiosity. A dread wrapped tightly around fascination. I slowed to a crawl. The fog wrapped around the car, pressing in thick and damp. The glow flickered in tandem with my pulse, almost as if it could feel me. Shadows danced along the shoulder. Impossible, angular shapes bending toward the light. I blinked, and they rearranged. Always aware, always just beyond comprehension. I exhaled again. The mist swallowed it before I could hear. Even the hum seemed to pause for a moment, listening to me. The light shifted forward, then paused. Each pulse matched my heartbeat. Slow, deliberate. It was guiding me, or maybe watching me. I realized I had stopped noticing the road. The highway behind me folded into fog, and every landmark was gone. I was alone, suspended between movement and stillness. The glow flickered once more. Closer, but never near enough. Patient, waiting. I kept driving. Slowly. The hum carried me forward. The shadows bent around me, and the fog seemed to breathe with each step. I could not tell where the light ended or where I began. It was both calling and testing, an invitation wrapped in unease. And I followed, because stopping felt impossible, because leaving felt like breaking the rhythm of the world around me, and because the fog, the hum, and the pale light had made me a part of something I could neither name nor escape. The road narrowed beneath the fog. I drove slowly, tires humming against wet asphalt. Then, ahead, a dark shape appeared. A truck, parked in the middle of the highway. Engine warm. No footprints led to it. No movement, no driver. Only the hum of the road and the softness of fog curling around its tires. I slowed to a crawl. The air smelled faintly metallic, like rust and rain mixing with oil. A symbol was etched into its side. Pale, almost glowing. I could not name it. It pulsed faintly, like the truck itself breathed. I approached cautiously. The door was closed. Still, the metal was cold under my hand. I tapped the window. No reply. Inside, the seats were colder than the night. The air smelled faintly of earth and something wrong. The radio whispered words I could not understand, soft, warped, a language folded in static. The hum followed me here, deeper, vibrating to the steering wheel and the soles of my shoes. I leaned closer. The fog curled inside the cab, moving unnaturally around the dashboard. Shadows stretched along the seats, bending with no source of light. The truck seemed alive, watching me, patient, waiting, its silence thicker than the mist outside. I stepped back, heart tight in my chest. The hum persisted, as if insisting I noticed something I could not name. I glanced around the highway. The fog swallowed every landmark. The trees leaned closer, their branches reaching toward the asphalt, their whispers threading to the fog, telling me to move, to leave, but also to stay. The truck's glow pulsed again. Slow, deliberate. It seemed to sync with my breathing. Each inhale and exhale echoed in its presence. I tried to tell myself it was abandoned, a trick of fog and shadow, but instinct refused. The air pressed closer, thicker, colder. Something shifted inside the cab, a fleeting reflection of movement. Not mine, impossible to see clearly, but the feeling lingered, rooting itself in my chest. The tires hummed faintly. The fog curled around the truck like water around stone. The world outside seemed to hold its breath. I stepped back. The glow faded slightly. The whispers in the fog remained, rustling along the edges of the highway, reaching for something I could not name. I exhaled. The radio murmured again. Shadows twisted. The truck seemed both gone and present, a presence lingering just beyond comprehension. I turned back to the road. The fog shifted, as if disappointed by my retreat. The hum followed me as I drove, pressing against my ribs, a soft insistence, a call I could not deny. Every instinct screamed to forget it, to leave the highway behind. But curiosity tangled with dread, and I felt the pull of something deeper, something patient and unseen. The truck remained in my mind's edge, glowing faintly, its silence louder than any sound I'd heard. The fog pressing again, leaning close, and I realized the road itself had shifted. The asphalt curved differently. The trees leaned closer. I was no longer certain which way I had come or which way I would go, and yet I could not stop. I kept moving. The hum followed. The fog followed. And the abandoned truck, somewhere behind me, somewhere ahead, kept its watch, patient, silent, an unspoken invitation I could neither refuse nor fully comprehend. The fog thickened, rolling across the highway like water. Every sound I made seemed distant, muted, swallowed before it reached my ears. My tires hummed, low and steady, but even that felt hollow, unreal. Then I heard it, soft, almost imperceptible. Whispers, not words I could understand, not even a language I could place. Just threads of sound woven into the air, as if the trees themselves were speaking, their voices curling along the fog like smoke. I stopped, listened. My breath formed pale clouds that hung in the air before vanishing. The whispers didn't stop. They moved with me. They threaded through each exhale, brushing my ears. Shadows flickered at the edges of the mist. Too fast to catch, too deliberate to ignore. I blinked and they shifted. Shapes bent, elongated, hovering just out of focus. A chill crawled up my spine. The fog pressed closer, thicker now, shifting around my tires, my legs, my chest. I could feel it weaving around me, wrapping me in a quiet tension I could not name. The whispers tangled with my heartbeat, a rhythm I could not separate from my own pulse. Each step forward felt like trespassing into another layer of reality, one held together by fog and murmured secrets. I strained to locate the source. Nothing. The fog swallowed everything beyond my headlights. Every blink revealed new shapes, pale and indistinct, hovering between the trees, just beyond comprehension. I wanted to run. I wanted to shake off the unease that gripped me. But the whispers pulled gently, as if curious, patient, inviting me deeper into the unknown. The forest leaned inward. Branches curved toward the road, leaves brushing against each other in soft, deliberate rustling. Names, I thought, whispered through the rustle, names I knew and had never heard. They rolled over my skin like water, leaving goosebumps in their wake. The fog thickened again, pressing against the car, against my chest, condensing with every exhale into pale, fleeting faces. They appeared for a moment, watched me silently, and vanished. Footsteps, maybe my own, maybe not, tapped lightly on the asphalt behind me. I turned quickly. Nothing, only the hum of tires, the mist, and the whispers threading through the air. Curiosity tangled with panic. I felt my pulse in my ears, loud, irregular, and still, I could not look away from the road ahead. The shadows danced along the roadside. They bent unnaturally, almost sentient. Shapes too long, too thin, their presence felt more than seen. They moved with me, mirrored me, but left no footprints, no trace beyond the fog. A cold breath brushed the back of my neck. I exhaled sharply. The fog swallowed it instantly. Even my fear felt dissolved, absorbed into the mist. I pressed the accelerator gently. The whispers intensified, swirling around me. Every blink brought a new shape. Every exhale condensed into something watching, waiting. The highway seemed longer now, folding in on itself. Every mile was a thread of shadow and fog, pulling me forward, deeper into the unknown. I whispered my own name, barely audible. The fog answered in kind, a soft murmur wrapping around the car, around me. I felt suspended, between curiosity and dread, between the whispering fog and the silence beyond. And I drove on, into the fog, into the whispers, into the shapes that vanished when I blinked, but lingered just enough to make me wonder if I would ever leave. The fog pressed close, thickening with every mile. Headlights barely reached the edges of the highway, and the asphalt seemed narrower than it had a moment ago. Then I saw it, a figure, tall and thin, standing by the roadside. It didn't move like a human. Its motions were deliberate, slow, unnatural. I slowed instinctively. The hum of the tires felt heavier now, vibrating through my chest as if sensing the figure. Its eyes glowed faintly, reflecting nothing I could see. No light, No warmth, just awareness. And when I stopped, it mirrored me. Not walking, not stepping, hovering, patient, deliberate. The fog curled around its legs, then around its torso, as if it were part of the mist itself. The air smelled damp and metallic, a faint tang that made my skin prickle. Silence pressed down, thicker than fog. No wind, no distant traffic, no chirping of night insects. Only my heartbeat, loud and hollow in my ears, and the figure's unblinking gaze. I blinked. It shifted ever so slightly, just enough to make my stomach tighten. It didn't follow the rules of the world I knew. It moved against logic. Yet it was here, observing, patient, silent. I tried to breathe slowly, but every inhale felt heavy, as though the fog weighed on my lungs. My hands tightened on the wheel. The headlights trembled slightly, casting the figure's shadow long and unreal along the asphalt. The world behind me had vanished. Every familiar landmark swallowed by gray. Every sign obscured by mist. Only this figure remained, a stillness in the chaos of the fog. I considered driving past it, turning the wheel sharply, leaving the highway behind. But something held me. Curiosity, dread, and the unshakable feeling that it knew I wanted to run. The hum from the tires pulsed again, matching my heartbeat in a strange resonance. The fog shifted around the figure, revealing the impossibility of its form. Too tall, too thin, its limbs bending in ways I could not comprehend. I exhaled slowly. The breath formed a pale cloud that lingered before dissolving into the waiting air. The figure did not move, yet I knew it was aware, tracking each heartbeat, each flicker of hesitation. I eased the car forward. The figure stayed perfectly at my side. No sound, no footsteps, just a faint shimmer of eyes that reflected nothing, yet contained everything. The fog curled tighter around the highway. The world seemed to fold inwards. And still, the figure hovered there, silent and unyielding, an impossible companion on this empty road. I kept driving, slowly. Each breath, each blink measured against the presence beside me. The highway stretched endlessly, gray and hollow, and the figure remained patient, still, and watching. The hum of the tires was the only thing I could trust. The fog wrapped around the highway like a living thing, curling at the edges, pressing against the car. The radio crackled suddenly. Static, sharp, almost angry, but there was something in it. Shapes forming, twisting, almost human, bending in the mist just beyond the headlights. Shadows shifted along the roadside. They stretched, curved, and leaned toward the asphalt, moving unnaturally with a patience that made my chest tighten. Each step I took was mirrored by something unseen, an echo of motion that didn't belong to me. I blinked. The shapes rearranged themselves. Tall, thin, bending against logic, hovering just out of focus. No footprints, no sound, only presence. The fog thickened, swallowing the edges of the road. Every mile felt longer, narrower. The trees leaned closer, their branches whispering softly, scraping against each other, murmuring words I couldn't understand. The static pulsed again. I realized it was not random. It followed my heartbeat, tightened with my exhale, and the shadows leaned further toward the highway. I slowed the car, but the mirroring continued. Every movement I made was copied, an unspoken mimicry that made the asphalt feel alive beneath the tires. My breath formed pale clouds. They hung, thick and heavy, before being swallowed by the fog, like the air itself refused to hold sound. I glanced to the rearview mirror. Nothing familiar appeared. Yet the sense of being followed, measured, studied, remained, as if the fog itself had eyes. The shadows along the roadside bent closer. One flickered in the corner of my vision, long limbs stretching unnaturally, then vanished when I turned my gaze. I exhaled again, shallow, fast. The static thickened, layering into hums and whispers, almost music, almost language, but impossible to understand. The highway seemed narrower still. The asphalt folded subtly, edges curling into gray, shrinking the world behind me. Every blink revealed new shapes, silent watchers that warped with the mist. I tried to convince myself it was imagination, but the hum, the static, the shifting fog spoke with certainty. The road had intentions, and they were tied to me, to every heartbeat, every cautious step forward. I drove on, slowly, eyes strained to catch movement, hands tight on the wheel. The fog swallowed distance. Shadows leaned closer. Static pulsing rhythm of my chest. The road was no longer a path. It was a living, bending thing, folding around me, with watches embedded in mist and shadow. I blinked, and the shapes remained patient, deliberate, leaning closer, waiting, and I realized I had nowhere to hide on this highway. Only movement, only breath, and the whispering, pulsing fog. The fog thinned slightly, but only enough to make the shadows sharper. The highway stretched ahead, pale and hollow, each mile swallowed by gray. A pale green light hovered just above the forest floor, soft, deliberate, almost breathing. It moved slowly, teasing me, casting long shadows that bent impossibly, stretching beyond what should exist. I slowed. The air smelled damp and earthy, mixed with something faintly metallic, like rust on wet stone. I stepped out of the car. The tires hummed beneath me, but the forest carried its own quiet resonance, soft vibrations that threaded through the mist. The light flickered as I approached. It was playful, teasing, never still long enough to focus on. I wanted to reach out, to see if it could be held, but the moment my fingers stretched forward, it retreated slightly. The forest remained silent. No rustling, no wind, no bird calls. Only the hum of the tires, the faint vibration beneath my feet, and the soft, deliberate glow ahead. The trees leaned inward, their trunks dark and slick in the fog. Every glance revealed new shapes crouching in shadows, hidden watchers, patient, unmoving. When I blinked, they shifted, always just out of focus, always aware of me. I took another step. The fog swirled around my ankles, curling like water. The green light pulsed faintly, matching a rhythm I could not name. I exhaled. The breath lingered, pale and trembling, before being swallowed by the mist. The forest seemed to notice. The light flickered again. A shadow moved near a trunk. Impossible, too thin, too tall, bending against reason. I blinked. It vanished, and yet the feeling remained, of being watched, measured, an audience in stillness. I wanted to retreat, to step back into the highway's hum. But curiosity pulled me forward. The pale glow was insistent, patient, like it was waiting for me to understand. Every step forward made the shadows stretch further. The forest leaned closer, and the fog thickened around the light, almost guiding me through a path I could not see. I realized then I could not fully reach it, could not fully understand it. It existed just beyond my perception, a quiet presence teasing my vision, yet undeniably aware. The green light pulsed again, slowly, deliberately, and the shadows along the roadside bent toward it, as if the forest itself were tuning to its rhythm. I exhaled slowly, letting the fog carry my breath. The light flickered with my pulse. A subtle vibration threaded to the ground beneath me, through my feet, through the air around me. I stepped back. The forest exhaled behind me. The pale glow remained, hovering, waiting, and I realized that even as I left, it would follow me in memory, a quiet, insistent presence in the fog. I returned to the car. The tires hummed, the fog pressed in, and I drove forward. The green glow lingered in the corners of my vision, silent, deliberate, and I knew the forest had marked me, and I would not forget. The fog pressed close again, curling along the highway. My headlights barely reached the trees at the edges. The asphalt felt narrower, as if the world had folded behind me. I glanced down at a puddle on the road. My reflection stared back, alone, at first. Then I saw the shadows. Not mine, bending behind me with impossible intent, moving in ways that defied reason. The mist swirled around my tires, curling into delicate tendrils, pressing against the metal of the car. Each exhale formed a pale cloud that lingered, condensed to a life of its own. I blinked. The shadows shifted. Closer. Yet no footprints, no sound, only presence. The forest leaned inward, branches scraping softly against each other, whispering names I didn't know, or maybe ones I had forgotten. I wanted to look away, to focus only on the road ahead. But something in me was rooted, held in place by the shapes behind me. The puddle reflected more than my image. Faces, distorted and pale, twisted just beneath the surface of the water. They watched me silently, then disappeared with a ripple. I swallowed. The air pressed tight against my chest. Breath came in short, shallow gasps. The hum from the tires felt heavier now, vibrating through the car, through my bones. A shadow flickered at the edge of the headlights. Long, angular, impossible. I turned quickly. Nothing. Only the fog, bending, waiting. Each step forward made the puddle ripple, and each ripple revealed new shapes. Leaning, crouching, just out of focus. They did not move like humans, and yet they moved with purpose. I tried to steady my hands. The steering wheel felt cold under my fingers, but it was my heartbeat that seemed louder than everything else. The reflection in the puddle shifted again, revealing the impossible bending of shadows that followed me relentlessly. I exhaled slowly. The fog swallowed it immediately. Even sound seemed to vanish here, except for the hum and the faint whisper of wind through the branches. I blinked, and the shapes were still there, patient, deliberate, watching. The highway stretched endlessly, gray and hollow beneath the headlights. Every mile felt borrowed, as if the road itself were alive, mirroring my breath, echoing my fear. I pressed the accelerator gently. The shadows lingered, bending toward me, then fading into the mist. The puddle rippled one last time, revealing nothing but fog and my own reflection. And yet I knew they were still there, waiting, patient, deliberate, just beyond sight. I drove on, alone. The hum of the tires and the whisper of the fog followed me, and I could feel their presence, even when I could no longer see it. The fog thickened, pressing close to the asphalt, heavy and damp. The highway stretched ahead, gray and endless. Each mile felt borrowed, unreal, as if the world were holding its breath. Then I noticed something. Every sound I made disappeared. Footsteps, my own breath, even the faint rustle of fog against the tires. Gone before reaching my ears. It was a quiet, so profound it pressed against my skull, leaving only a hollow pulse where sound should have been. I exhaled slowly. Nothing. Even the hum of my tires felt muted, as if the road itself had swallowed it whole. The fog swirled around the headlights. Shapes emerged, folding into the mist, leaning close but never solid. I could feel their presence, the weight of eyes that did not blink, measured and deliberate. I tried to speak. My voice vanished midair, dissolving into the dense gray. No echo, no answer, just absence. Every movement felt strange, like walking through invisible walls. The road beneath me pulsed faintly, resonating with something unseen. I wasn't just on the highway anymore. I was inside it. I glanced at the trees. Their branches leaned closer, rustling with names I could not recognize, or perhaps they were mine, murmured in tones I could not decipher. The hum returned, soft, insistent, surrounding me. It pressed in from all directions, like invisible walls vibrating with sound I could feel, but not hear. Shadows bent toward it, swimming in the fog, mirroring my every movement, even as my own sounds remained absent. I exhaled again. The fog clung to me, thick and damp. Every step forward sank into silence, yet the humming kept pace, threading through the air, through the asphalt, through me. I turned the wheel slightly. The fog shifted with emotion, curling and twisting like a tide. Shapes emerged in the mist, pale, angular, bending beyond reason. They hovered at the edge of my vision, following, watching, patient. I pressed the accelerator gently. The highway felt narrower now, folding in on itself with each blink. Every exhale formed a pale cloud, suspended in the air, then vanished, swallowed by the waiting gray. I reached for the rearview mirror. Nothing moved, yet the sense of being followed pressed in, heavier than any weight I had felt before. No footprints, no sound, no trace. Only the presence, patient and deliberate. The hum pulsed again, a low vibration threading through the tires, through the fog, through my chest. It filled the silence with a presence I could not escape. I realized then I could not be certain I still existed. The air, the fog, the road, they had absorbed everything I made. My voice, my steps, even my fear, all vanished into the mist. And yet I moved forward, drawn by something faint, insistent, a rhythm beneath the silence. The fog folded around the highway, guiding me, and the hum surrounded me, a soft, vibrating tether, pulling me deeper into the unknown. The world beyond the headlights had disappeared. Shapes hovered in the mist, impossible and silent, leaning toward me, patient, watching every step, every pulse, every breath I could no longer hear. I drove on, alone. The highway no longer belonged to me. It belonged to the fog, the hum, and the unseen watchers who moved with me through the vanished sound. The fog had thickened again, wrapping the highway in gray, swallowing every familiar shape, folding the road behind me. I glanced into the rearview mirror and froze. Eyes, tall, thin, pale. Not one, not two, but several, spaced perfectly along the highway behind me. Their gaze didn't waver. It followed me, patient, deliberate, unblinking. Every time I blinked, they shifted closer, yet no footprints trailed them. Nothing disturbed the asphalt or the fog, only their presence, watching, waiting. The tires hummed beneath me, but the rhythm no longer felt comforting. It matched my heartbeat now, tight, irregular, echoing in my chest. I gripped the wheel tighter. The headlights trembled faintly, casting long, unreal shadows along the fog-curled road. Each blink revealed new watchers, always just beyond focus, always patient. The highway seemed to narrow further, edges folded inward. The fog pressed closer. Branches scraped softly along each other, whispering names I didn't know, or perhaps names I feared to remember. The figures remained, tall, impossibly thin, gliding rather than walking, moving in a way that made the world feel wrong. I couldn't look away, couldn't blink fast enough to escape their gaze. I tried to breathe slowly, exhaled into the fog. It swallowed my breath instantly, yet the figures moved ever closer. Each pulse of my heart mirrored theirs, not in sight, not in sound, but in intent. I glanced down at the road. The asphalt stretched endlessly ahead, gray and hollow, folding into itself. Every mile behind me vanished in the mist. The figures were all that remained, patient and silent, aligned with the road and its curve. The fog shifted with each blink. Sometimes a shape crouched behind a tree. Sometimes one hovered just at the edge of headlights. Each time, they observed me, yet left no trace beyond the invisible weight of their gaze. I exhaled again. The air pressed tight to my chest. The hum beneath the tires vibrated through me, threading through my bones. I realized the world I had known no longer existed behind me. Only the watchers, the fog, the hollow, bending highway. I pressed the accelerator gently. The figures followed, hovering, gliding, patient, unblinking. Their presence carved the road, shaped the fog, and folded time itself around the stretch of asphalt I traveled. Every blink, every glance made them closer, yet still silent, watching, waiting. I drove on. The fog pressed around me. The tires hummed in rhythm with my pulse. And the eyes in the rear-view mirror, tall, thin, pale, aligned with the highway behind me, remained patient, deliberate, unyielding. The fog drifted over the highway like a slow tide, curling over the asphalt, soft and insistent. It carried shapes that defied reason, shadowed forms that moved without sound, stretching and folding in the mist. I exhaled. The breath lingered, pale and thick, before vanishing into the fog. The road beneath me pulsed faintly, as if alive, its heartbeat hidden beneath the hum of tires. Every mile felt borrowed, folded, bent toward some unseen center. Shapes appeared in the fog. Faces, pale and fleeting, hovered for a moment, watching, silent, then dissolved into mist as if they had never existed. The fog tugged at me, not with force, not violently, a gentle, insistent pull, drawing me toward the center of the highway, towards something I could not name. The trees leaned inward, branches brushing softly against each other, whispering names and fragments of words I could almost, but not quite, understand. Each rustle seemed deliberate, a signal, an invitation I could not resist. I slowed the car slightly. The fog thickened, curling around the tires, pressing against the wheel, and I realized the highway itself had intentions. Each exhale, each turn of the wheel was mirrored, measured, folded into the rhythm of the mist. Pale, Ghost-like faces formed in the fog, swirling in the center of the road. They stared, silent, patient. I wanted to look away, but curiosity, fear, and something deeper kept my gaze locked on the drifting forms. The air vibrated faintly, resonating through the asphalt, through the tires, through my chest. The fog shifted, pulling and bending, and I could feel the road narrowing around me, folding inward with every heartbeat. I exhaled again. The mist wrapped itself closer. Shapes rose and fell, stretching and vanishing, never solid, always deliberate. It was alive. The highway was alive. I pressed forward slowly. The pull of the fog intensified, like a tide coaxing me toward its center. The pale faces swirled, hovering just above the asphalt, watching, waiting. Branches rustled overhead. Leaves whispered my name. And with every blink, I felt the fog drawing me deeper, a slow, impossible motion, as if I had no choice but to follow. The road seemed endless, gray and hollow, folding into itself with every mile. And the fog, patient, deliberate, alive, pulled me onward, through shapes and shadows, through whispers and faces, towards something I could not see, but could feel in every nerve, every breath, every heartbeat. I drove on. The mist swirled. The asphalt pulsed beneath me, and I realized I was no longer traveling a road. I was traveling the fog itself. The trees leaned toward the road. Branches curved like reaching fingers, scraping softly against each other. Leaves whispered names I did not know, or perhaps ones I had forgotten long ago. The fog pressed close, curling around the asphalt, making the highway feel narrower, folded in on itself with every mile. I drove slowly. The tires hummed, a low, steady vibration that echoed through the mist. Every exhale formed a pale cloud, lingering just long enough to catch the movement of shadows crouching between trunks. I glanced to the roadside. Shadows bent impossibly, long and thin, folding around trees in ways that made my skin crawl. Each blink revealed new shapes, hovering just beyond understanding. Rustling followed me, not from the wind, not from anything alive I had ever known. It whispered softly, intimately, threads of sound curling in and around the fog. I could almost hear names in the rustle, familiar, yet wrong. The highway felt alive beneath the tires. Edges curled, folding the asphalt inward, pressing the road tighter around me. The fog thickened with every blink, tugging, patient, deliberate. I wanted to look away. I wanted to drive past and forget. But the shadows, silent, patient, leaned closer with each mile, observing, waiting. A branch cracked to my left. I flinched. Nothing was there, only mist, bending, folding, and shapes crouching behind trunks, always just out of focus. Always aware, the trees rustled again. This time, slower, heavier, deliberate. The sound wrapped around me like fingers, pressing against my chest, reminding me I was not alone. I exhaled. The fog swallowed it instantly, leaving only the hum of tires, the subtle vibration to the asphalt, and the whispers of leaves along the road. The highway curved subtly, folding and narrowing ways I could not see, and every glance revealed new shadows, leaning, crouching, watching. I pressed forward, slowly, heart tight in my chest. The fog thickened. The trees leaned closer. Rustling names threaded through the mist, weaving a rhythm that echoed my own pulse. Each blink, each breath, each careful step pulled me deeper into the forest's intent. The shadows crouched between trunks, bent impossibly toward the road, patient, deliberate, unyielding. I drove on. The fog pressed, the trees leaned, the rustling whispered, and I felt the road itself alive beneath me, folding around the tires, pulsing with the watchers hidden between the trunks. I could not stop. I could not look away. And as the shadows stretched and the fog thickened, I realized the forest had claimed the highway, and I was traveling through its awareness, alone and entirely observed. The mile markers vanished behind me, swallowed by fog. The highway stretched endlessly, gray and hollow, folding on itself like it had no beginning, no end. The tires hummed beneath the car, low and steady, but the sound felt muted, distant, as if the road itself absorbed it. Shapes moved at the edges of my vision. I blinked, and they vanished. I blinked again, and they returned, twisting and folding in impossible angles, just beyond understanding. My breath formed pale clouds, thick and lingering in the heavy air. Each exhale seemed borrowed, absorbed instantly by the fog that pressed close to the asphalt. The road felt alive beneath me. Every curve, every shadow, every ripple in the fog breathed in time with my heartbeat. I couldn't tell if I was driving or if the highway itself carried me forward. I glanced to the roadside. The trees leaned inward, branches brushing softly against each other, scraping, whispering, names I could not recognize but somehow knew. Shadows moved along the edges of the road. Not quite human, not quite anything. They bent and stretched, hovering just out of focus, patient, deliberate, watching. The fog thickened, curling around the tires, pressing in from the sides, and I could feel the highway narrowing, folding beneath me like it had intentions of its own. I wanted to look away, to focus only on the road ahead. But every blink revealed new shapes crouching between trunks, hovering, leaning, observing. A soft rustling passed through the trees. The sound was deliberate, like leaves whispering secrets I was not meant to understand. My chest tightened. The fog pressed closer. The shadows bent toward me. The world behind me had disappeared. Every landmark swallowed by gray. Every mile swallowed by the mist. The highway felt hollow, as if it existed only for the shapes that followed, and for me, moving through it, observed at every turn. I pressed the accelerator gently. The fog shifted around the car, edges curling closer, folding the road inward, folding me into the rhythm of the highway itself. Every blink revealed new watchers, shadows that hovered, patient and deliberate, never stepping, never blinking, but aware of me in ways I could not comprehend. I exhaled slowly. The fog swallowed it instantly. Even sound seemed absent. Yet the road pulsed beneath the tires, and I knew the highway itself was alive, watching, folding around me, and I could not stop, could not escape, and could not look away. I drove on, through the hollow road, through the gray, endless folding of asphalt and mist, alone and entirely observed. The headlights cut through fog thick and wet. Trees leaned closer along the roadside, their branches scraping softly against each other. Symbols flickered faintly along the trunks, glowing, pale, almost alive. I slowed, leaning forward to read, but each blink rearranged them, lines bending, letters folding into new shapes that made no sense, yet felt deliberate. The forest pulsed with awareness. The fog wrapped around me like a tide, pressing close to the asphalt, curling around the tires, around my legs. I exhaled slowly. The breath hung in the air, thick and pale, before dissolving into the mist. The symbols flickered again, pulsing in time with my heartbeat, teasing, patient, deliberate. Shadows crouched between the trunks. Impossible angles, bending beyond reason. Each blink revealed new forms, stretching, leaning, observing. The highway beneath me seemed narrower. Curves folded subtly, folding the road inward like the world itself was closing. Every exhale, every blink, every heartbeat was mirrored in the fog, in the symbols, in the shadows. I wanted to look away. I wanted to keep moving. But curiosity rooted me to the asphalt, and fear kept me tense, alert. The symbols whispered softly. No words I could understand, but the tone was insistent, warning. The forest leaned in closer, branches scraping and rustling, pressing the sound of movement into the mist. A shadow flickered in the corner of my vision, long, thin, bending impossibly. I blinked. It vanished, but the feeling of being watched remained, pressing against my chest, heavy and deliberate. I exhaled again. The fog swallowed it instantly. Even the hum of the tires felt absorbed, leaving only the pale flicker of symbols and the pressing awareness of unseen watchers. I pressed forward slowly. The road bent subtly beneath the headlights, edges curling into gray, folding the highway into itself. Each mile brought new symbols, new shadows, new whispers I could almost understand, but never fully. I realized then the forest was alive. The fog, the symbols, the shadows, they were aware, measuring me, watching me, marking me as I passed. I drove on, slowly. The symbols flickered, the shadows crouched, the fog pressed in, and I could feel it, a presence patient, deliberate, unyielding, alive along the highway and entirely aware of me. The fog thinned slightly, revealing a distant hill along the roadside. Atop it, a figure stood, still, watching, not quite human, its posture rigid, commanding, yet impossible to fully comprehend. The fog swirled around it unnaturally, moving as if obeying the figure's silent will. I slowed the car. The tires hummed faintly beneath me, but the sound felt hollow, absorbed by the thick mist around the hill. Curiosity tugged at me. Dread pressed against my chest. I wanted to turn, to leave this place, but something impossible to name kept me rooted, drawn toward the hill, toward the figure. The fog shifted subtly with each blink. Shadows bent at impossible angles, stretching along the slope, leaning closer, watching my approach. The air smelled damp, metallic, like rain on stone and rusted metal. Every exhale lingered in the fog, pale clouds twisting, pressing around the tires, around my chest. I could feel its eyes on me. No light reflected, no warmth radiated, but awareness pressed down, patient, deliberate, undeniable. The forest along the road leaned inward, branches brushing softly against each other, whispering names I didn't know, or names I had forgotten long ago. The fog carried their murmurs up the hill, wrapping the figure in soundless words. I blinked. The slope shifted slightly in perception, and the figure remained, unmoving, yet fully alive in some way I could not name. I pressed the accelerator gently. The tires hummed, the fog swirled, and every instinct screamed to stop, to leave. But I could not. I was drawn forward, the hill, the figure, the mist itself guiding me. Shadows along the roadside bent toward me, leaning, crouching, folding against the asphalt. The world behind me vanished in gray, folded into mist and silence. Only the hill remained, and the watcher, silent, patient, deliberate. I exhaled slowly. The breath lingered, pale and trembling, before dissolving into fog. The figure did not shift, did not blink, did not move, and yet I felt its gaze in every nerve, threaded to the fog, threaded to the road itself. I drove on, slowly. The hill receded, but the presence remained. The fog followed, bending around me, twisting in rhythm with my heartbeat, and I knew I was being observed entirely by something beyond understanding, patient and unyielding. The abandoned truck reappeared, closer this time, not where I remembered passing it, but somewhere in the fog, waiting. Its engine was silent, yet warm, as if alive in its stillness. No footprints led to it. No sound betrayed its presence. I exhaled slowly. The fog wrapped around the tires, curling along the road, folding the asphalt beneath me. I slowed. The truck hovered just at the edge of headlights, its pale glow flickering faintly, insistent. The forest leaned inward, branches whispering names I couldn't know or didn't want to. Every instinct screamed to drive past, but curiosity rooted me in place. I could not tell if I moved toward the truck or if it moved toward me. Shadows bent around the fog. Shapes crouched between trunks, patient, deliberate, unblinking. The hum followed, threaded through the tires, through the mist, pulling me forward, and I realized the highway no longer belonged to me. It belonged to the fog, the watchers, and the vanishing truck. A soft hum vibrated through the forest. Leaves quivered as if alive. The vibration threaded through the asphalt, through my tires, through my chest. Shadows bent toward the sound, curled along trunks, crouching, watching, waiting. The fog pressed close. It carried the humming waves, thick, insistent, impossible to ignore. Branches scraped softly against each other, whispering names I couldn't understand, or perhaps names I had forgotten. The trees pulsed with awareness. The hum seemed attuned to me, threading through my heartbeat, my breathing, each movement along the road. I pressed forward slowly. The forest leaned closer. Shadows bent unnaturally toward the highway, patient and deliberate. The fog thickened, curling around the tires, twisting around my chest with every exhale. I felt entirely observed, and yet strangely held, as if the forest was both warning and guiding me. The fog rippled across the asphalt like water. Shapes swam inside it, some human, some impossible. Each step, each mile, was swallowed by the rolling mist. I blinked. The shapes shifted, leaning closer, folding at impossible angles, always patient, always deliberate. The forest leaned inward. Branches scraped softly, whispering sounds I could not recognize. I exhaled. The fog pressed against my chest, thick and damp. Even the hum of the tires felt absorbed, lost in the weight of the shifting mist. Shadows moved at the edges of the road. I could not tell if they followed or led. Every blink revealed new watchers, folding themselves into fog. I pressed forward. Alone, the highway no longer felt real. It existed only as a path through mist, through shadow, through shapes that bent against reason. Every mile murmured secrets. Names I knew, names I didn't. The highway seemed alive. It guided me, threatened me, offered both comfort and warning in equal measure. A pale light bobbed ahead, soft, deliberate, teasing me forward. The fog curled around my tires, pressing against the asphalt, shaping the road beneath me. Shadows crouched along the roadside, long, thin, impossible, patient and deliberate. I exhaled slowly. The air felt heavy, thick, almost tasting of damp earth and rust. Branches rustled above, whispering my name. The fog followed every movement, mirroring my heartbeat, threading through each cautious step forward. I pressed on, drawn toward the pale light. Curiosity tangled with dread. Each mile swallowed by the whispering highway. A humanoid silhouette emerged. Impossible, yet solid. It moved against logic. Not walking, not floating. Something between. When I approached, it vanished, then reappeared behind me. The fog swirled around it, curling, patient, deliberate. The air pressed against my chest. My breath formed pale clouds that the mist absorbed instantly. Shadows bent around the figure. Long limbs, impossible angles, leaning just beyond perception. I could feel its intent. Not malicious, not kind, but aware, patient, deliberate, threaded to the fog and the asphalt beneath my tires. I drove on slowly. The figure vanished, then reappeared. The highway folded in itself. The mist pressed closer, and I realized this road was not mine. Static returned. Thick, heavy, vibrating through the tires, through the fog, through my chest. Voices emerged from the hum. Urgent, incomprehensible, threading through the air, mixing with the folds of the highway. Shadows writhed with the vibration. The asphalt pulsed beneath me. The road itself seemed alive, folding inward, bending around my presence. I blinked. Shapes shifted. Some crouched along the roadside. Others hovered, patient, deliberate. I exhaled slowly. The fog pressed closer. The hum wrapped around me, threading through every breath, every pulse, reminding me I was observed, measured, folded into fog's rhythm. Road signs vanished as I passed. One blink. They were there. The next, they were gone. Shapes hovered at the edges of the fog, still, patient, watching. The fog pressed tight. Branches whispered names I could not recognize. Every mile stretched longer, folding the highway beneath me. Isolation pressed close. Thick, calm, suffocating. The hum pulsed beneath my tires, threading through the mist, through my heartbeat. I pressed forward. The road bent subtly, folding inward. The watchers remained, shapes crouching, bending, observing, and I was entirely alone. A soft, pulsating light hovered ahead, pale, deliberate, hypnotic. Shadows aligned along the roadside, watching, patient, deliberate, unblinking. I exhaled slowly. The fog pressed around the car, curling along the asphalt. Curiosity battled with dread. I pressed forward. The light pulsed in rhythm with my heartbeat, drawing me closer, shaping the fog, folding the road beneath me. Every blink revealed new watchers. Shadows crouched, bending impossibly. The forest leaned inward, branches whispering names I did not know. I could not stop. The glow pulsed, soft and insistent, and I drove toward it, drawn into the fog, into the watchers, into the unknown. The road ended where I had not expected. Shapes loomed in the fog, silent, observant. Every instinct screamed to turn, but I was rooted, staring at what I could not name. The air shimmered. A hand, or something like it, reached toward me. The fog curled around the shapes, pressing close, folding the highway beneath us. Shadows leaned in from the forest, long limbs, impossible angles, patient and deliberate. Curiosity tangled with fear. I exhaled slowly. The breath lingered, pale and thick, before vanishing into the mist. The watchers were everywhere, patient, silent, observing, folding reality around us. I realized the highway had never been just a road. It was a passage, a conduit, and now, beyond the highway, I saw its purpose. The air shimmered. Light bent. Shapes hovered, patient, deliberate, and I knew I had reached the edge. I did not turn. I did not blink. I exhaled and let the unknown fold me into itself.